Today we're talking about a guy who looked at systems that were literally designed to be unbeatable. You know, casinos, Wall Street, and he didn't see a brick wall. He saw a puzzle. His name was Edward O. Thorp, a mathematician who completely changed the game, all by figuring out the hidden rules nobody else even thought to look for. So let's just start with a really simple question. Can you beat the house? I mean, for most of us, the answer is just an automatic gut reaction, no. Of course not. The system is rigged to win. The odds are stacked against you before you even sit down. But what if that's just not true? What if that conventional wisdom is totally wrong? See, back in the 1960s, Edward Thorp proved it was. And he didn't just, find a little crack in the casino's armor. He blew it wide open. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he took that exact same way of thinking and pointed it at the biggest casino on the planet, Wall Street. So how in the world did he do it? This wasn't luck, and it wasn't some kind of once-in-a-generation genius either. It was a specific, repeatable way of thinking. It was a method. Okay, so let's get into what that really means. Thorp actually explained it himself right in the preface to his book. He said he thinks in models. Now, what's so cool about this idea is just how simple it is. A model is just a simplified version of reality. Think of it like a street map, right? A map isn't the city, but by stripping away all the noise and the extra details, you can suddenly see the underlying rules, the grid, the one-way streets, that make the whole system work. And he boiled this whole philosophy down into 4 basic principles. Number 1, don't just believe what you're told, go check it for yourself. 2, don't just have an idea, take that thought, that formula, and actually use it to make something happen in the real world. 3, set a goal you can actually achieve, and then just don't stop until you hit it. And 4, try to be logical and rational about everything, not just the stuff you're an expert in. You see, this isn't just a strategy for a game, it's a full-on mindset for life. So where does a powerful mindset like this even come from? Well, you might think it was developed in some fancy university lab or a corporate think tank, but nope. It was forged in the fires of a relentless and sometimes kind of dangerous childhood curiosity. From the very beginning, Thorp's life was just one big series of experiments. He wasn't just learning about the world from books. He was out there actively kicking the tires, testing its limits, and treating every warning he got as just another hypothesis that needed to be proven. And this is where you can really see his principles in action. I mean, someone tells him, don't touch a hot stove. What does he do? He checks for himself. Gets burned, lesson learned, never does it again. He tried to count to 1,000,000 by literally tallying up every single item in a Sears catalog. He didn't just read about chemistry, he made his own gunpowder, launched rockets, and even built bombs out of plumbing pipes. This was definitely not a kid who took anyone's word for anything. The author Nassim Nicholas Taleb puts it perfectly in the book's foreword. He says Thorp favored learning by doing, with his skin in the game. His knowledge wasn't abstract or theoretical, it was earned. It was earned through direct experience, through trial, and sometimes through some painful error. And that right there is the foundation for everything he did next. All right, so the first great proving ground for this whole method was, you guessed it, the blackjack tables of Las Vegas. This is where he was going to put his model-based thinking to the ultimate test, against a system that was designed to be perfectly rational and, unbeatable. Now back then, everybody, and I mean everybody, believed the casino's logic, that the odds in blackjack are fixed, and they always, always favor the house. But Thorp's first rule was check for myself. So he built a model, and he realized the casino's logic was totally flawed. The odds were not fixed. They changed with every single card that came out of that deck. And somewhere in that change, an advantage could be found. And that advantage is called the edge. This is the whole key. It's not about winning every hand. That's impossible. It's about getting yourself into a spot where, over the long run, the probabilities are tilted, even just slightly in your favor. If you can find the edge, you can beat the house. So he took his super complex mathematical models and turned them into a brilliantly simple, actionable strategy, card counting. Here's how it worked. You start a little tally in your head, add 0. When weak cards, the low numbers, come out of the deck, you add 1 to your count. When the strong cards, the 10s and aces, come out, you subtract 1. So when your mental tally gets high, that means the deck is still packed with strong cards. The edge has just shifted to you. And that is when you bet big. The real genius wasn't just doing the math, it was making it simple enough to actually use under pressure. But look, this story is about so much more than just gambling. After he conquered Vegas, Thorp started looking for a bigger game. He turned his gaze from the casinos of Nevada to the biggest casino of them all, Wall Street. He looked at the market and saw exactly what he saw in the casino, a system. A system with rules, probabilities, and most importantly, inefficiencies. He figured that, just like in blackjack, you could find spots where stocks or other securities were mispriced, creating a little statistical edge that you could then exploit. It was the exact same method, just a different deck of cards. And by doing this, he basically started a revolution. He pioneered what we now call quantitative analysis, developing these complex formulas to find tiny pricing mistakes in things like warrants and convertible bonds. He essentially invented the quant trader, the math whiz who uses models to beat the market. And he changed Wall Street forever. You know, in the end, Thorp's store really isn't about making a ton of money. As he says himself, his real goal is to help us think differently, to see the world not as a bunch of fixed, unchangeable rules, but as a series of systems. Systems that can be understood, that can be modeled, and that can be navigated with simple logic and reason. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. Thorp questioned the unbeatable system of the casino. Then he questioned the unbeatable system of Wall Street. So what about you? What unbeatable system in your life, in your job, or in the world around you is just sitting there, waiting for someone to come along and check it for themselves?